Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Whatever time it is when you hear this message, I pray that you're poised to receive, to accept, and to respond to words of wisdom. Ashe. One of my favorite Greek sayings is that as they begin, so shall they continue. And that is a really powerful affirmation when I think about the continuation of my practice within Orisa lifestyle. In other words, when I think about where I am today and the continuity of my practice is very firmly rooted in the beginning. And what I mean by that is I was introduced to Orisa lifestyle, let me put it this way, from a pan-Yoruba perspective, meaning that I was exposed to the Afro-Cuban tradition, the Brazilian tradition, the Haitian tradition, the Ewe tradition of Ghana, as well as the Yoruba tradition of West Africa, all at the same time. So I happened to be living abroad in Latin America at the time, and all of these different people happened to be on deck. And so at a time in my life where I was very, young, my mind was very fresh and open, and we had lots and lots and lots of time on our hands. I could sit and I could talk and I could build and cultivate with these different practitioners without the distractions of life here in the United States, number one, and also with a different cultural framework, right? So we were just, the pace is different, the approach is different, the mindset is different. And so that's how I got introduced to the tradition. Now, what that has done is a couple of things. One, it made me clear from the very beginning that although I am a product of the diaspora, the tradition and the practice that makes most sense to me is the West African tradition. Okay, the thing that makes the most sense to me is the West African tradition. Makes sense in the sense that it's intact. Okay, you can get all the information, the language, the history, the flora, the fauna, the geography, the history, like all of that is verifiable and easily traceable when you're in the West African tradition. In the diaspora, it gets really dicey really fast. People aren't really sure, and they don't have necessarily the same kind of a value for being able to make a relation between this deity and this kingdom, for example, or between a certain kind of a practice or a certain ritual and a local tradition, right? It just, that correlation isn't as strong. And so for me, just for the sake of understanding, my mind works in such a way that I understand better when I have that kind of really concrete context for the practice. Now, at the same time, in my spirit and my orientation for life, I am reverent, right? So I'm not disrespecting or dismissive of any of the diaspora traditions. I never have been. I never will be. I have total respect for what the Cubans do, what the Haitians do, what the Brazilians do, what the Trinidadians do. For me, it is absolutely legitimate. That is their tradition. That's how they practice it. And, when I'm with them, I do it the way they do it, right? But at the same time, okay, because of my reverence, I have never wanted to disrespect someone's tradition by not taking it seriously. So people have invited me to do different kinds of ceremonies and receive different things. And I've always opted out to say, hey, you know what? I respect what you do enough to say that that's not what I'm going to follow through with. I'm not going to practice your tradition in the fullest. So I'm not going to, trivialize it by getting this one thing with you or doing that one thing, So, instead, how about you tell me all the things I can see, all the things I can say, all the things I can touch, all the places I can go without being obliged. Okay. And so that has put me in the position of being a learner and being able to be exposed to a broad spectrum of the culture and the tradition and the practices of all these different Yoruba and Yoruba derived spiritual traditions, right? Now, all of that represents a reflection of how I started in the tradition, and it represents the way I have carried out my practice in the tradition, as well as the way I've taught the tradition to my students over the years. Okay. Now this becomes super crucial for the African American devotees, because one of the things that is absolutely certain is that every tradition has something. The Trinidadians have something that the Haitians don't have, and that the Cubans don't have, and that the Brazilians don't have. Likewise, the Brazilians have something that the Nigerians don't have, and that the Cubans don't have, and that the Haitians don't have. And everybody has something that is particular to their tradition. And I'm not talking about this fantasy about, you know, somebody's got long lost rituals and language that have been lost in Africa but have been retained in the diaspora. I don't mean that. I just mean that each tradition has been refined and distilled in a particular way. And as a result, they've cultivated a certain sensibility and certain kinds of talents, right? So, you know, hey, who dances better than the Cubans? Who plays drums better than the Cubans? You know what I mean? It's like, for example, who chants better than the Nigerians, right? Just aesthetically, who's got a more beautiful aesthetic than the Brazilians? Who brought, you know, the tradition into revolution at a higher level than the Haitians, right? So everybody has something. Everybody has something, and or everyone has cultivated something as a result of their experience, right? Because experience creates values, and so certain values have developed in each of the areas of the diaspora that make their tradition particular. So now, when I look at my practice and what I'm doing within my own community here in the United States, what I am certain of is that African Americans have something special. We have something unique. And I want to see us make use of and expose ourselves to the Orisa tradition in such a way that what we really have is enhanced and is brought all the way to the surface and is refined at the highest level. And to do that, you got to understand that although you practice the tradition in an orthodox manner, you follow the rules, you stay with the structure, you do it the way we do it. We practice Isheshe, right? We practice the West African tradition. You follow all of the rules and the precepts of the Yoruba tradition as it is practiced in West Africa, right? But you do it for the purposes of self-development. You don't do it for the purposes of trying to emulate or copy every single detail of what you see people do in Nigeria. Likewise, if you do it, if you practice the Cuban tradition, same. You may not need to chant 10,000 verses of Ifa. You may not need to play 20 different rhythms of the bata or rumba. You may not need to, you know, do all of the things that the Brazilians do and all of the things that the Haitians do. And you may not need all of that, because you're a dentist. You need to get everything that the tradition can give you to be the best dentist in the world. You're a lawyer. You need to find exactly what Ifa, what Orisa can show you and cultivate within you to be the best lawyer. You are a school teacher or a nurse or a stay-home mom or a truck driver or an entrepreneur. You need to let the tradition elevate you to the highest level and bring out the very best qualities for you as an individual, and also help you to show up more and more deeply within your community. So how are you the best dentist in your community? How are you the best truck driver and serve your community? How are you the best stay-home mom and your community? Orisa can help you to cultivate that level of awareness and the practical skills involved with, you know, making a meaningful contribution to your own life and the lives of those who matter most, right? But that has to be your focus, though. Your focus isn't just getting all the beads, all the pots, all the titles, and all the little doodads and whatchamacallits and widgets that everybody else has. That's not productive. That's not why our ancestors sacrificed. That's not why the tradition is thriving and has been kept alive in our time. Sure, maybe 1 in 100,000 of us is going to have to sit in the shrine all day and do all the extensive rituals. That's 1 in 100,000. Everybody else is making roads. Everyone else is fishing. Everyone else is building cars. Everyone else is going and you know, winning court battles. Everyone else is healing wounds. Right? We need all of those different elements to make the community complete. And that is one of the definite takeaways that I got from observing the Cubans, the Haitians, the Brazilians, the Trinidadians, the Nigerians, etc. By observing them from the perspective that I described in the beginning of the video, I'm able to see that it's a composite. It's a composite. The tradition thrives in the diaspora precisely because it is permeated every dimension of the culture. There's no part of the culture that has escaped the influence of Orisa lifestyle in Haiti, in Brazil, in Cuba, in Nigeria, in Trinidad, etc. But not everybody is trying to be a priest or a priestess. That is the key to the success of our tradition and how the tradition will enable a higher level of success for us personally and collectively in this era and in the time to come. So this is a message that I am repeating to the leaders. I'm looking for leaders. I'm searching high and low for leaders. I'm looking for African Americans who are ready to improve the world through positive influence. If you're one of those people, then I want you to visit me at obafemio.com or orishalifestyle.com. Find out how Obafemi Origunwa and the Orisa Lifestyle Academy can help you take your practice and your life to the highest level imaginable. I look forward to working with you. Bye for now. Odabo.